The importance of friendship. Oh my gosh, there are so many reasons that we need other women in our lives, and so many reasons that strong bonds create just a mental health boost. My life this season has been the roughest in parenting. I mean, who knew that toddlers really do go through the terrible twos? I mean, she's going to be 3 years old, but it's really starting to happen right now. I've been in a huge struggle with getting her to bed, getting her to wash her hands, talking to her, getting her to daycare, going potty training, like really struggling with every part of daily life that doesn't involve hugging her and having her in my arms or playing games. And I swear to you, if it weren't for my friendships this season, I would be a total mess. I haven't felt like myself lately with the stress of it all, so I didn't do any podcast episodes the past few weeks. I don't want to overwhelm you with it, and I also want to make sure that I'm able to come on here and give you the best of me. And today, I'm not all the way there on the other side of the struggle, but I am feeling more hopeful after journaling right now. So in my writing today, there's a few things I did discover, and one is that, well, actually the biggest one of it all, is that this change in my schedule and my life is having me not show up as my best self lately. The person that I normally am is usually like very positive, happy. I love waking up, and lately I'm waking up grumpy, I'm complaining, I'm not a very kind person, and it's important to note, I know it is okay to have hard feelings. I'm totally aware with this, but I also know that this feeling I'm having is lasting much longer than I want it to. In journaling, I also found out that there are a few things that I do want to do differently moving forward to bring more joy in this chaotic time. So first, I want to make it a priority to make my fiance Michael laugh. I want to make him laugh at least once a day. And I know this sounds like such a funny thing to make as a goal, but the other night I was having a glass of wine and I opened up my Parrot app. If you haven't heard of it, it's kind of a fun way of connecting with your partner if they're open to it. I have it on my end because he doesn't feel like answering the questions on his end, but it still pops up sharing what the question of the day is that you can use to start a conversation with your partner. And the question that came up that night was to ask your partner, when was the last time that you two really laughed out loud? It almost made me want to cry because nothing came to mind. I was thinking about the past month, and obviously we had a lot going on, and the month before, and I was like, when have we really laughed a lot together? And I'm sure we have, but the fact that that question came up and there wasn't just an answer that I could say like, oh, when you said this or this joke or we were out here, like that concerned me a little bit. And it's really because life lately has been so serious. We've been in adult mode, and it's crazy to say, but obviously I'm an adult and I run my business and I'm a mom and I've been doing this for a long time, but I haven't really felt like an adult all the time. I still feel like freedom and doing a lot of things I want to do, and lately I've really felt like we've been adulting hard. So, number one, make Michael laugh once a day. The second thing that's on my list is I need to make it a priority to get Noelani to sleep in bed at night. It has been rough, and I'm extremely grateful that I have so many friends around me that I could call up and cry with and ask for advice, and every single mama had something different to share on how to help her go to sleep, and they were sharing what they had done with their children in the past or what they're currently doing right now, or how they are also struggling, because I have a few moms that have toddlers Noelani's age, and one of them just gave up and said, she's sleeping with grandma because, it's too hard right now. So it was really nice to hear that I'm not the only one going through this or that has gone through this. It is hard sometimes because I have my own business. I work full time and then some. I like to work in the mornings before she wakes up. That is really important to me. I like to work in the evenings after she goes to bed. And there was one mama out there close friend of mine, been my friend for many, many years. If you're listening to this, Jessica, it was you. But she was really honest with me. She told me the truth of being in it. She's like, you know what? You will cry. You will break down. And when you try things, it's probably not going to work, but it doesn't make you a bad mom. She mentioned how as moms, we just keep trying and doing our best, and we wake up and we try it all over again. And when it's the end of the day, it's the end of the day. And that felt so real and comforting. For whatever reason, she didn't try to give me too much advice on what to do. She just told me, like, it's okay to be in the thick of it right now. It's just a season. And you know what? You can cry and break down because it's hard. I really did not mean to make this podcast into a mom episode or podcast, but I will raise my hand and say that I have been that mom lately at the party or at the get-together where I'm just talking about my struggle. And look, I'm doing it here on the podcast, so it's definitely been a problem. But the whole point, the reason why I'm sharing the story is the importance of being in community and having friendships in our life, whatever age we are. We need people that we can go to talk to share things with, to cry with, to figure out life with. I mean, that's the beauty of it. If I had to sit here with my feelings by myself, I don't know how I would have made it and stayed sane. I mean, even now I feel like I'm going to have a breakdown every once in a while, but being able to share and talk and express has been really important. And I want everyone to have friendships and people in their lives that they can go to and hang out with and get advice from and learn from. Like, that is what we're here for. So as adults, making friends is totally different. It can be so weird. We have our guards up. We've been through a lot in our lives. And it's like we sometimes go into it slowly or we dive deep in. It almost feels like dating sometimes. Like, will they like me? What will I say that might, piss them off? It's such a weird thing trying to make friends as adults and feeling like, oh my gosh, are they going to reject me after I try to ask them out? But this podcast episode is important to me because since the beginning of starting my business, that is when I really realized the importance of friendships and community, and not for people to help you with things and having like quote unquote connections, but it's important to have those people that you can go to as mentors, as friends to learn from, because life gets tough. And throughout the past 14 years in business, I have tried to keep these relationships alive, and I like to put a lot of myself into them as well, especially when there's somebody that I meet or someone that has a mission that lines up with mine and feels so important. And a lot of the people that I've interviewed on this podcast are those kinds of people. They're my kind of people. They're people that want to bring others up and be such an important part in our community. We need women leaders like that. So most recently, I met someone online. I met Monique, and it was through Instagram. I don't know what was going on, but I was going through Instagram and these photos came up of this really cool brunch on the east side here in Bellevue, Washington. And I couldn't make it because I had my daughter that day. I dedicated that Sunday to being with my daughter. So I was like, I can't go, but I would hope to go in the future. And I decided to hop on and message her. I didn't know if she'd write back, but I wanted to let her know that I love what she's doing. Like, everybody at the event looked like they had a great time, got to connect and meet other women. And I admired that a lot. For me, it's important to bring women together. So she ended up writing back, I think like the next day or within hours. And that conversation on Instagram ended up turning into a coffee date and then working on a project together. It was one of those like instant, let's talk about all the things and let's collaborate because we're on the same page on so much. And her mission in this project that she had that I'm going to share with you was really sharing women's stories of overcoming challenges and helping others find hope in difficult times in their life. And my heart is all for that. And when she shared that vision with me, I wanted to be part of that fashion show. The project that we ended up doing was a fashion show. And I was in it. I helped put the outfits together. There were 8 models, and I helped find a local designer. that we could feature to show in the fashion show, because I think it's so important, again, to like source other people, reach out to other women. And the woman that I reached out to feature in the fashion show is actually going to be the next interview that you listen to. Her name's Elisa. So stay tuned for that. I don't want to share too much about her because she's also such a wonderful woman. Her story is awesome. She's in your business here in Seattle, Washington, doing great things. So, anyways, this podcast was actually supposed to come out before the fashion show, like 2 weeks before this fashion show, because I wanted to invite all of you to join us. But with my personal life, it just didn't happen. I haven't had time outside of work hours to do the podcast. So I am so sorry, but now you get to listen to it. Now you get to meet Monique, and maybe you can come next year. It was such a huge success. And as the models walked down, each model had a story of something they had to overcome in their life and where they're at now, and then the message that they had for the other women in the audience who might be going through something like that. I wanted to cry and clap the whole time, but I was on stage also talking and sharing about the outfits and how they're showing up in the looks and what the pieces were made of and how to put things together. So it was just a really good time. And there is nothing better than meeting people in a place like this where you can network and have fun and have the freedom to share more about yourself. I think that there needs to be more events like this. And I hope in the future to be able to do something small and invite all the people that inspire me and that I've worked with to continually just come together and show up for each other. But that's something in the future. Let's get into this podcast. So Monique is a goal fulfillment coach behind Evolve with Monique, where she takes you to a life where you get permission to create new chapters and learn how to love unconditionally, yet set boundaries, to give freely, yet monetize your skills, to support others, yet still be able to fulfill your own dreams. This episode is so good. Everybody meet Monique. I am so excited to have you on today because we met over Instagram kind of randomly. I reached out to you. I saw you were doing this brunch on the east side. I love Bellevue. I'm always there with clients. And I have gone through, I haven't shared it, but I've gone through a little breakup with one of my best friends. And so that's kind of why maybe Instagram just knew that, like, had you pop up. And I was like, I really want to go to that brunch, but I had my girls that day. And so I did end up going, and I reached out just asking how I could support you and how wonderful it is that you're bringing people together. So I want you to share real quick, like, what you're doing in our community here.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you reached out because that was like super empowering for you to do that too. I love that so much. So what I do here in the East Side is really just I love community. I love women. I've always had a heart for women. And just like you, I went through some hard friendship things for about 3 to 4 years with a couple of females, one in particular, that I didn't really understand what narcissism was at that time. It didn't dawn on me till way later, but she put me through the ringer that really made me put up a wall when it came to friendship. But even though I had that wall there, I've always desperately still crave friendship because I think that women just do no matter what. We want to have that bestie. We want to have that tribe. We want to have those people that we can depend on. And then also, I'm an entrepreneur. So, that journey can be a little bit lonely too. So, like moving to Bellevue like a year and a half ago, I came here just with my boyfriend. So, once things started opening back up, I was like, I need people, I need community. Because where I came from, I had a big community. I had lived there for so long. But coming here, I didn't really have anyone. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Being an entrepreneur, being somebody that has a lot of vision and has started a lot of things, I was like, I'm just going to start my own networking group. And then that kind of evolved as I met also other business owners in the community, women business owners, that there's a desperate need for connection and reliability. So I was able to bring to birth the East Side She Tribe and the CEO Rise Empowerment Brunches. And they're all about building a community of women of support that uplift each other, that choose to be a reliable. When they say they're going to do something, they're going to do something. If they enter into a connection or friendship or any type of relationship with you, it is really a part of our culture and community to be like, stick by what you say. You know what I mean? So that's really huge for me. Authenticity and reliability are two main components of our community.
And that's so powerful. I think anyone listening, if you do come into that situation where sometimes it happens to you when you're going through a moment in your life, like maybe you just had a newborn or your kids are teenagers and you're struggling with that and you don't have people to talk to, sometimes creating your own community is the best way if you can't find people around you. But if you search on meetups, you could search on Facebook groups. There's usually so many people that have started something like this, and you are never alone in any situation. There are always resources and a lot of groups like this. And I like yours because, and you've used this word authentic so much, which is what connected me to you too. Because I've seen other groups and I just, obviously I didn't meet you or go into the group beforehand, but I could tell by the quotes that you put up, I could tell by the photos that you put up, like this group of women, you could tell that they really connect together and it feels real. It's not like fake or putting up a persona. Like it looks like everybody can just show up as they are, and I loved that.
Absolutely. I do not like having to be something, look a certain way, sound a certain way, anything to fit in with anybody. So that's definitely something that we build in our community. You'll see that over again in our promotions, or like you said, in quotes or whatever. Like, we want you to be who you are. We don't want you to feel like you have to fit in. We want you to feel like you belong with us. And that doesn't mean that you have to change in any kind of way. That means that you get to show up just as you are, who you are. Now, does that mean that we don't challenge each other and we don't inspire each other to grow? Because we all have areas in which we need to grow, but the core essence of who you are as a person, your quirkiness, whatever it is, the things that you like, that maybe somebody else doesn't like, you get to keep all those things. And we appreciate that about you, even if we may not agree. And one of the big components of our community is we focus on what we do agree with, what we do like have in common, not all the uncommonalities that divide us as people and as women, but what do we have in common? We love having fun, we love growing, we love self-development, we, you know what I mean, we like just doing so many different things together and just really concentrating on the positive things. So yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
and
be
you
authentic.
Yes, yes, and celebrating what you do have in common is so important because being able to be around people that are different from you is challenging, but you learn so much from them. So that's really important to find like what do we actually have in common and let's go do that together. Let's talk about that and focus on that. And if there are things like you said, like bring it up, let's talk about it. Let's put it on the table because that's how you deepen any relationship.
Absolutely. I remember one of our meetups, actually, I won't go into the detail of the heavy conversation, but we had a really heavy conversation with some very opposing opinions about that. And usually typically we don't get into those situations, but we kind of had to broach this topic just for forward movement in the group. So it one of the highlights of that conversation was it got really tense for a minute, uncomfortable, but people felt free enough to say their opinions, their sides. But afterwards, we all still, like, somebody broke the ice with something funny. We all went back to just having fun. And those women still come to the group. And I love that because you need to be able to kind of be authentic, be real, show up in what you feel is true for you, but then respect that that's true for the other person. And then know that it doesn't have to stop there. We do not have to agree on everything to be friends. It's okay, because there are enough common grounds that we can walk on together, that we don't have to concentrate on the rocky ones that we don't.
I experienced that. In the past, I've done book clubs. That was my way of kind of doing like a networking, but I kept it very small. And there was one group that I put together. I think it was me and three other women, and it was intense for a year and a half, literally every 2 weeks we met up for about 2 hours to talk about this book that we were reading. It was by Lori Harder. I don't remember the book title, but it was a good book. And the way that you met people was you were supposed to reach out to three other women that you don't really know, but you want to get to know on a deeper level. And it was awesome. We connected so much. And 6 months in, I also won't mention, like, go into detail of the conversation, but we got in a really heated conversation. And out of it was four of us total. With the one that opposed, she was like, very defensive in the conversation, and the rest of us still were like trying to understand and ask questions, and she got very upset, and it was strange, and we just had to let it go after. But she never ended up coming back to the group, and all of us were texting like, hey, it's okay, like none of us are upset, like we know that, we don't have to agree on everything and stuff. But she never even texted back, she never showed up, and we're like, that's the power of someone that felt so uncomfortable or maybe even embarrassed about what happened, that she couldn't show up again. And it was a little sad, but that just goes
Yeah.
to show, like, some relationships aren't supposed to last forever.
Yeah. And I think that whether it's the culture of a group or whether it's you personally, um, you can have being authentic with your group, being authentic with your personality is definitely going to filter out who's meant to be there and who's not meant to be there. And that's why I use specific words very intentionally with the group and in my own personal life. So that way when people come around me, they talk to me, they already know, okay, she doesn't play the gossip game, she doesn't play the complaining game, she doesn't play those games. So they get to make that decision like, nope, she's not the girl for me. And that's okay. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because they will find their people. But I am so intentional about the type of people that I attract to the community and to myself during this phase of life that I had to learn that, like showing up very authentically as who I am with all my quirkiness and the way I talk, not trying to change anything about myself, has really brought the right people into my life instead of trying to be something that I'm not. The filter of who I am is exactly what I need to attract what I need in my life. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
That is very important. And with the group, you mentioned that you do brunches. What other kind of activities do you do to bring these people together?
What we built in from the brunch, because sometimes you go to these one-time events, you want to meet people, you want to talk to them, you want to build relationship. That's a lot of the time, a lot of the reason we go to things, but then there's no follow-up. There's nothing else that happens. So we definitely build in after you go to our brunches or any other event, there's always continuing events. So we have game nights, at least once or twice a month. We have networking events where we come together and for the entrepreneurs in the group, where we talk about the highs and the lows. You were just our last speaker there talking about the rocky side of, entrepreneurship. So, yeah, there's always something going on. There's going to be at least 2 to 3 events that you can go to within a month so that we continue to build the bonds in our community. We went to Stalker Farms together, a lot of us ladies, for the farm outing, bonfire dancing, and just talking and chatting, and that was amazing. So always something to do. Um, so yeah, those are some of the things that we do.
I think that is really important because I know that bigger, people doing like the big things, like the big business coaches, what Rachel Hollis said, because she was going on tour, and I almost went to one of her events. I just couldn't that weekend. She wasn't in town, but I would have had to travel to a different state. I love that they have so much energy, and their goal too during their events is to get different people around different states to meet and become friends. But then after, it's like, well, if someone doesn't make the initiative, or if you still don't feel comfortable on a one on one and you still want more time to get to know people, I like that you have something that is ongoing. So it's like you don't have that pressure to be like, oh, I'm kind of interested in getting to know you, but I don't know if I want to do a one on one yet, but you could still get to know the people that you're interested in time after time.
Yes, absolutely. And it's beautiful to see that some of these ladies are really linking up. I love hearing that, oh, me and so went out on a coffee date, or we did this, or yeah, I was just texting so and so the other day. And those are the things that bring joy to my heart, is to see those connections being made, because women are hungry. People are hungry in general for relationship right now. And women are so hungry for friendship, and they're so hungry for reliable friendships. in this, day and age, there's a lot of ghosting, or there's just not a lot of clear communication about why maybe we're just not meshing, or you know what I mean? Like people avoid so many awkward conversations that they'd rather just ghost you
I
or
love
just get.
awkward conversations.
Yeah, me too. Let's get some clarity. Let's open up our mindset. Let's like get to know, why do you think the way you think? It can totally like really open us up and expand our worlds if we would have those awkward conversations. And we might actually find out that that very person that we want to push away because they're a little bit different than us, they think a little bit different than us, is the very person that we need when we go past and go into those awkward conversations. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Awkward conversations rock.
I know. And when I first started dating my fiance, he was very uncomfortable about certain topics. He still talked about them, but sometimes if he got uncomfortable, he'd change the subject. And I started noticing that. And I'm like, what about it makes you uncomfortable? And I dig deep. And a few months later, after that, he opened up and shared, well, actually, no girlfriend or friend has ever asked me a lot of questions that you ask. And there are things that I don't have an answer to because I've never even asked myself those questions. And it's
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
he's gotten so much more open about things, which has been wonderful, but he was never presented to that in all his years from a friendship, from any relationships at all. So it's
I
like
think that's wonderful because I hear the same thing from my boyfriend, which is really great. But it builds such a depth of intimacy, whether it's your significant other or a girlfriend. And
Mhm.
that's why, like, I like getting into really intentional, deeper conversations than just surface conversations, because that's where you really get to the meat of a person and really get to know their pains or their joys or why they think the way they think. And you honestly just fall more in love with them the more that you understand them.
Mhm.
And
Uh,
yeah.
I want to talk more because I know that you have mentioned before too, like the importance of storytelling. Like this is something which we're going to talk a little bit more later, but you're even doing a fashion show based on storytelling. What is so compelling to you about people's stories now that we're getting into it?
I think just basically stories make you relatable because you can look at somebody and think that they have it all together. Oh, they're so beautiful, they're so wealthy, they're so outgoing, they're this. And we're always comparing ourselves with the image of someone else. Instead of, when you hear their story, you're like, oh my gosh, what? You're just like me in that area. What? I have felt that same pain. I have had that same rejection. I have had that same heartbreak. And that person becomes more real instead of just an image. So then now you're like, okay, we are more alike than we are different. And I love the power of storytelling because then you're so inspired because you're like, oh, well, if you can get over that, I can get over that. If you can accomplish that, I can accomplish that. So it's empowering and it makes people so much more relatable. So that is why I love, in the fashion show, we're going to hear phenomenal stories of women that chose to rise on purpose for a purpose. We're not just watching pretty women or, pretty clothes, but we're going to see empowering stories that inspire us to be just powerful on the inside and let that radiate to the outside, even in the way that we dress. So, yeah, that's the power
Yeah.
of story.
It definitely opens up other people too. Like maybe they start sharing things that they've never really talked about before. Like the last meetup that we went to that I spoke at the end, people were kind of like, "Oh my gosh, I've gone through that too. This is like business AA. This is like an AA meeting for business
Yes.
people." Because it's like what we were talking about, for people listening. I shared the struggles that you go through in a business because I've been in business 14 years and no, it has not been a straight road. I've learned so much along the way.
Hmm.
But there are things that people don't like, they see where I'm at and all the things I'm doing, but they don't know like everything that took to get here and all the bumps in the road. And everyone else had experiences too that were so similar.
Absolutely. I don't think there's an entrepreneur or just a human on this planet that doesn't have the highs and lows. Nobody had a straight climb up, like, and no one ever will. We never get to a point where it's just a straight climb or a straight line. No, The minute we think we have it together, it's like, oh, life hits you in the face, throws a little obstacle in there, some type of hurdle, and you're like, okay, here we go again. But I know that I can do it because I've done it before. I can do it again. I see other people, like you said, when I hear those stories, when I connect with other women, I know that they did it and I can do it too. So, absolutely correct.
It does also make life more interesting. Even sometimes when I'm in the struggle of anything, whether it's like personal or business, it does remind me like, okay, change is happening. There's something that needs to change in how I'm doing things. And it's kind of exciting because you get to create something new from that challenge. And I look back at certain things, I'm like, if I've been doing the same things over and over again without a challenge, like life would be kind of boring. Like you need a little bump or a push to do something differently.
Oh, yes. I don't think that I would be where I am today. Even when I look back to the friendship that shook up my world for a few years, I would not be where I am today without that. You know what I mean? It made me become more self-aware. It made me become even more empathetic and compassionate and open, but also it helped me to set boundaries where that relationship and a different relationship, man, I needed to learn to set boundaries in my life, like you said. So we learn so much from those, and they actually propel our lives to higher levels. I think of things like whether it's business or the things we go through in life, like the stock market. I believe like the stock market is constantly going up, even though it has dips and divots. And when we have those dips and divots in our lives, regardless of it feels like a setback, like even right now with recession and inflation, it feels like a setback. But when we see over the grand scheme of things in history, yeah, you're going to see this big dip, but it's a constant climb up, and we're constantly learning, we're constantly growing, even from the failures, even from the pain, as long as we allow ourselves to never give up, never stop, and keep moving forward.
And recessions also bring about new ideas and big businesses come out of it. So,
Innovation,
um,
yes.
yep, it's actually a good time for creating something new right now. Anybody listening, don't let it stop you. Don't
That
let
is
it stop you.
so true. Absolutely.
And talking about heartbreak and losing the friendship that you had, how did you handle that? Because it definitely, I had not remembered what it felt like to lose a friend. It has felt like I have broke up with someone, like a boyfriend. Like we were doing things and I'm like, oh, I used to do that with her. Or, oh, 2 years ago we did that. Or, oh, like it's so weird. Like memories come up or something happens and it reminds me of this person. It feels like a real like breakup.
Yeah, it sometimes I feel like even with girlfriends is worse. It's worse because sometimes I love my partner, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
there's just something about the power of a girlfriend and a friendship where you like that's really true and deep, and you're just telling them everything, and there we have such a relatability just because of our gender and our mindsets and the way we think. So when you do lose that friend, it is so devastating sometimes. But I think the thing that helped me, because I did go in a dark hole for a while, like, I don't want to deal with this no more. This is crazy. Women are crazy. But like I said, I still had that deep desire, like, no, I want a friend. I need friends. You know what I mean? So I just, like you said, I had to go against what I was feeling. I
Hmm.
had to purposely and intentionally make steps to put myself back out there in friendship. One of the biggest things is becoming self aware. What went wrong in that relationship? Even though this person did a lot of stuff to me, they can only do a lot of those things to me because I didn't have boundaries. I wasn't as self-aware of myself and what I needed and how I should be have been protecting my time and like paying attention to the red flags and standing up to those red flags and standing up to no, I'm not going to allow this, all the different things that you have to learn from bad situations.
Hmm.
Like now be aware of those things and now implement them in new relationships and be like, okay, that hurt me last time. I'm not gonna allow that to hurt me again. I'm not gonna allow somebody to come into my life in a certain type of way. That doesn't mean that you can't be intimate with them and share with them once you feel really at peace with moving in that direction. But at the same time, I think go slowly, and be wise and pay attention to your intuition because it is there to help you. And when I look back on that relationship, bypassed a lot of red flags because it was just so fun. It went so fast. She was so fun. We were having fun, but there was always something in the back of my head, kind of like, slow down, like, like, you just
Mhm.
have all these little things that you're like, but you just be like, nah, she's cool, she's happy, she's fun, we're getting along, she wants to do these wonderful things for me, I'm loving it. But why does she want to do all these wonderful things for you? What is her true motive and her intention? So question things, don't just go with the flow. But then again, like I said, use those things to help you in your future relationships. Don't just let that relationship stop you, but be empowered by that in your next future relationships.
And boundaries are wonderful. They can change your life. They can change how you do your day to day, who you get to accept to come into your life. But at the same time, when you start doing it, for anyone listening, when you start setting up boundaries, it sometimes does feel like you're being mean because, especially if you're used to saying yes to everything and showing up, changing your schedule for someone, just putting, all of your effort into somebody who's not putting any effort back into you, it's hard to put boundaries up at first, but I promise you, as you're talking about, like, it does make a huge difference. It makes a huge
Mhm.
difference.
And I think as you're talking, really thinking, is this sustainable? Is the way we're setting up this relationship sustainable for me, for my family, for her? Like sometimes we get in these relationships that are fast and they're furious, but we're not thinking, is this really a healthy way to be building this relationship? That we're hanging out with each other all the time, 24/7. She's at my house all the time. She's even up in like my husband's face, just to be honest, whatever it may be. You need to be mindful of that and be like, is this really smart? The way that I'm setting up this relationship with this person right now. Not to say that in that relationship she didn't do anything with my husband, but I've seen that happen where people have allowed somebody to come into their life so much so that it does cause issues even in the marital relationship. So just be really mindful of how you're setting up that relationship, see if it's sustainable, set up the boundaries even if you don't want to have them. Even if I want to hang out with her all the time, I love having her over all the time. No, there needs to be boundaries for you, for your family, and everything else in your life. So, yeah, be very smart and wise about that.
Mm-hmm. And friendships in general, yeah, you want good people in your life because it does, you feel connected when you have the right people. And I was listening to a podcast that was really interesting. And I know a lot of people know this, but women tend to have deeper, more meaningful relationships than men. Not that men don't need it, just men don't open up as much as women.
Mhm.
And as women, like, we want to talk about all the things and go deep. And not every man is going to do that. And we can't expect every man in our life to be everything for us. So having a good friendship can be like, let me call my best friend while I'm driving back home and unload all this like stuff I have on my mind. And then you could go home to your husband or boyfriend or significant other and just be like, okay, you don't have to take on everything because I know it's overwhelming when I come in and I'm like, this and this and this and this happened today. Like, it's a lot for them too. So having great friendships just
Yeah.
changes things in your relationship too.
I absolutely agree. I listened to this wonderful woman who is all about relationships. Her name is Esther Perel. And she says that a lot of how we want our mate and our partner to be everything. And that is just so unrealistic. They're not supposed to be everything to us because then when things happen, what I mean, or, in our lives, whether it's a girlfriend or your mate, they shouldn't be everything to you. Because if that person, God forbid, falls out with you, you get a divorce, that person dies, you have put yourself in a very vulnerable position. Whereas if you like allow yourself to not put everything in your spouse, not put everything in your best friend, now you have multiple sources of support. So,
Mhm.
I just love how Esther Perel brings that out for people, because she's like, I don't know where this came from, where your spouse has to be your best friend, he has to be your lawyer, he has to be your counselor, he has to be all these different things and wear all these different hats. And it's the same for women too. Like, we shouldn't have to be everything to our spouses either. So we should definitely have different sources of supports in our life for protection. And that goes back to setting boundaries as well.
And it goes back to community too. So Dr. Gabor talks about how he looks back at like different cultures and environments, and community is so important, and not just for raising children, but women need community. Like we need community to get through things because we have so many emotions, we have so much that we have to share. But now in the modern age, in his book, he talks about what isn't normal, but what we're making normal is that um, we're making it normal that your family is just you and your spouse and your kids. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to bring other people in. And back then, and in other cultures, they still do it. Like the grandparents are there, the friends of the family are there, like the aunts, the uncle, everybody's together because you do need each other to grow and not feel lonely and get through everything. So, friendship is so important in our life. And we forget that because we get so lost in our schedule and our to-do list. And it's like, oh, that date we have to cancel that date with our girlfriend because we have so much else going on in our small little lives. But the world is so much bigger, and there's so much more than sometimes these little problems that we have and things that come up.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Definitely make it a priority, because those relationships, sometimes you don't even need a therapist when you have a best friend, or you have those people in your lives that, like you said, you can unload. They can handle it, make sure that they
Yeah.
can handle
Yeah.
it, and you're not constantly just unloading negativity or different things on them, but that they can handle your offloading. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
sometimes we just have so much things that are pent up, and like you said, and we're taking it to our spouse, or we're putting it on our kids, or they just feel our energy, and all we really just need to do is somebody to have a listening ear. You know what I mean? And be like, girl, I understand, I got you, we got this, you got this. So having those people in your life is so powerful. And I definitely agree with, just having that community, because the more people that you have in your life, the more your life expands, the
Hmm.
more that you get to grow, your kids get to grow, the people in your life get to grow, because everybody, even if you're within the same family, the same community or culture, they still have a different outlook. They still have their own stories. They still have their own perspectives that you can learn from, you can grow from. So I agree with that whole concept of community.
And let's talk about the fashion show you have coming up. You've been working so hard on that. I am very happy that I've been able to be a part and introduce you to some of the people I know that we can help bring this together, because when you shared the mission of this fashion show, which you are going to share right now, it just connected with me so much. I'm like, I haven't seen this done. So can you share some details about the fashion show?
Yes, so the fashion show is on November 26th. It's going to be at 11 a.m. And the purpose of this fashion show is, again, to empower women. So I definitely wanted something that you're not just looking at something, but you're going to walk away feeling like, oh my gosh, I can conquer the world. After hearing that story, oh my gosh, if she can do that, I can do this. So you'll be hearing, as the women are walking in the fashion show, you'll be hearing their stories read of what they're, either some of the women are going through things right now that they're choosing to rise on purpose through. Some women have already overcome their situations and they rose on purpose. So it's all about rising on purpose, for a purpose, and with a purpose. Some people need that why, to just to get up out of bed every single day when they're in excruciating pain. So definitely want, I can't wait for their stories to be shared, of course matched with their outfits that also will be symbolizing the power and the strength that they're walking in, the choices to not be victims but to be victors in their circumstance, and what it was their why, what was their purpose for rising, whether it's their children, whether it's their family, their generations, whether it's for their culture, whether it's for them personally. It definitely has to start with you personally, but sometimes we have deeper whys when we think about our children, when we think about our Black community, our Latin community, or this community. We have so many different reasons why we choose to rise. We choose to rise for other women. so other women can understand that they can rise in business or in health or in fitness or in relationships or in marriages or in divorces, whatever it may be. So uh, I'm really excited about it. And like I said, that is really the purpose, also to support local entrepreneurs and small businesses. The clothes that are going to be modeled are going to be from a small boutique called Scott. I think I'm
I think
saying that
it's
right. Is
skin.
it Skeen
I,
or Scon.co?
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce it. It's
yeah.
Skein, so we don't get it wrong.
Yeah, but she has beautiful fall clothes, and I'm excited to see how you're gonna pair those up on the girls. And so supporting her, supporting your other friend who sells homemade jewelry. There's also Goddess Fashion Jewelry that's gonna her some of her stuff is gonna be in the show, and just other vendors will have certain things there that not only will you see it on the runway, but you'll also be able to shop. So I know that that's Thanksgiving weekend. So I was like, how can we make this like a one-stop
Ooh.
shop event? So I know that she's going to be bringing some clothes. You can look through those clothes. You can look through the jewelry. You can look through another one of our entrepreneurs has these a wonderful, wonderful. She decorates Starbucks cups like phenomenally. So those are awesome gifts to give. So it's also going to be a shopping time for women if they want to just come there and shop for things for their loved ones or even just treat themselves. So it's going to be a really great event. Plus, you're going to get a good brunch from, the Down Under. They cater that actually is Picano Baino or something like that, but that they partner with. But it's gonna be a good time, and of course, we'll have mimosas for people to purchase and get their drinks. We love mimosas, but ultimately, it's gonna be for empowering women and lifting women up, and just I like trying to create events that people leave from feeling so high and like they're soaring and they're just ready to conquer the world and do what they're called to do while they're on this planet. So that's what it's about.
And if you are going through a difficult time in your life or change or something has come up that you are struggling with, I do recommend that you purchase tickets and come and show up. You don't even have to speak to anyone because I know someone's just going to come up and talk to you. It's a very engaging, very sweet, nice community. We're going to have the link in the show notes so you can go directly to the link and purchase the tickets. And when you are going through difficult times, because I have gone through it, besides business stuff, but personal stuff, it feels really hard when you are trying to make a change, especially if you don't have the right people around you. So, being here and hearing other people's stories is going to give you hope that you can get through this and that the other side is so much more beautiful than the struggle that you're going through. And if you get through it, everything is going to be fine. Like sometimes we think about like all the little details of how are we going to do this, but when there is something better that's meant to be in your life, it will come and you just have to just open up to it. So,
I definitely agree. And I'd like to say now is a good time to get your ticket because we are running the early bird special until November 6th. So that'd be $15 off your ticket, and you can just use the code early bird at checkout. So definitely get that before November 6th. So you get in, get situated, get your ticket at the best price. Also, we do have wonderful ambassadors that are a part of this community that they're waiting. Like sometimes it's intimidating to go to an event by yourself. But we have ambassadors, they're waiting to talk to you, seat you, introduce you to others if you want that to happen. If not, that doesn't have to happen either. But this is not a community where you're going to come in and feel uncomfortable and left all by yourself. So I
no,
just
come
want to make
alone.
sure.
You don't need a
Yeah,
friend to come with. You could just come by yourself. I love
you
that
can
you have
definitely come by
ambassadors.
yourself. And also you can invite, because I know that that is Thanksgiving weekend. It is also a great event to invite anybody that you have coming in town, your mom, your sisters, your aunts, whoever's coming with you. This is a good event to bring them to. You will not regret it. They will love it. You will love it. And it's just going to be a really good time.
Can you share with us where we can find you on Instagram? Because I know you have Instagram too.
Yes. So I have two. Um, but the East Side She Tribe is where we kind of put pictures of some of our members, some of our events, different things like that. So you can follow us there. And you can also follow me personally at Evolve with Moni on Instagram. So, and you can also go to my website. You can get the ticket there at evolvewithmoni.com. So, Yes. Evolve with me. Let's grow together.
This is going to be really exciting. If you can make it, please show up. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we close up our podcast?
No, I would just like to say, just like Tanya did with me, be daring, reach out. If you see something or you feel something and you're like, I want to connect with other women, I need other women, or she inspires me, don't be afraid to reach out, because that is your inner self telling you, your intuition, that there's something greater for you. So trust your intuition, trust that greater part of you that is calling you to link up and connect with others because you need it. And I just want to encourage you to do that.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Just to let you know, the fashion show has already passed, so there is not going to be a link in the bio to purchase your tickets, but I didn't want to cut that out of the podcast. I really wanted you to hear what her vision was and what it was all about, because it was a great show. So I will invite you next year. I want to read a review that I got from Kylie. It says, working with Tanya was awesome. I was in need of upgrading my college wardrobe to include pieces appropriate for a young working adult. She absolutely helped me achieve this goal. During our Zoom regroup session, Tanya helped me identify what I liked about pieces that I already owned. And when we went shopping in person, she incorporated these aspects. Example, wide leg pants. Tanya also pushed me out of my comfort zone with new colors and patterns I wouldn't have picked out for myself. I felt really comfortable working with her and will recommend her services to all of my friends. That is Kylie's review of the month. I want to pick one every month that I get to share with you. If you have time, please hop on and share a review of what you took away from this podcast episode. You can also give me 5 stars and not write anything, but it's just a great way to get this out to more people, and it's so helpful. I want to know what you guys are learning, what you want to hear more about, and what is inspiring you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast, and I hope that I can be here for you. You can message me about things that you want to know about, that you're curious about, things that you're going through in your life, like I was in the beginning of this podcast. You know, there's always something going on in life, but it's so good to have people around us to help us through it. Have a wonderful day and continue building a life and style that truly reflects you.